Dave Scott Hub Media. It's our CMHA monthly show with Lill. And Lill, I didn't touch base on this last month, and I wanted to, but can you give me an update on the success of the World Suicide Prevention Day, September 10th?
Yes, we had a really great turnout at our events. There were events in Brant County, in Brantford, in Dunnville. True Experience put on an event, Suicide Prevention Walk, and South Coast Wellness, formerly
Oh,
known as CAMH, also had a Memorial Stone event. And all those events went really well. The support for World Suicide Prevention Day, which isn't a very, pleasant topic, but it's a topic that needs to be talked about. And this year, the theme was awesome. It was change the narrative on suicide. And that's exactly what we need to do. And that's what the event's focused on. Like, let's talk about it. We can't sweep it under the rug. The more we make it a taboo topic, or stigmatize the issue of suicide, the more people won't feel comfortable reaching out for help. And we may lose that person to suicide.
in Hallam, Norfolk, too,
Yeah.
where I grew up, it's, it's not an everyday occurrence, but it happens more than enough, if you know what I mean. And over
Yes.
the years, talking to folks that maybe are, have lost a family member, and just hearing their stories, and talking to them about it, we always look for the reason or how we could have changed it. Do you guys, when you did the prevention day, do you guys talk a bit about that? Like, obviously the narrative, let's get it out there and have
Yeah.
that discussion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's an awesome point. It's a great question, too. The thing is, if we open it up and make people feel comfortable about talking about their challenges, and they're having thoughts of suicide, and they feel so desperate that they don't see another way out, that really goes a long way of helping to save a person from suicide. So it's very important that we, talk about it instead of just sweeping it under the rug. Often in smaller communities, and even in big communities, I don't want to generalize like that, but in smaller communities, everybody knows each other, right?
Yeah.
And nobody wants everyone to know their family business, so it's not talked about. And usually on those, because of that, people don't reach out for their mental health problems, and until it's too late. So yeah.
And I know a couple of months ago, we talked about the 988 number,
Yes.
and I thought that was a great topic. And I know we're back to this, but I mean, it's so important to share that information again, if you don't mind, because I think that's critical.
Yeah. We do have a 988 number. It will be 1 year in November. Unfortunately, not everyone knows about it, but it
Right.
is out there. It's 24/7. They have trained responders, and you can talk or text. So if you're having thoughts of suicide, or you're just going through a crisis and you want someone to talk to, reach out, please. That's what they're there for. They are waiting to take these calls, and they're trained in, alleviating or de-escalating suicidal thoughts, and linking people up with appropriate services. That's very important, right? Because sometimes when people are having thoughts of suicide, they're alone with their thoughts of suicide. They can't talk to anyone, but having that extra step, there is a place you can go to. There is a service I can connect you to. Suicide is not the answer.
I think too that, with the 988 number, just
Mhm.
maybe being able to talk to somebody that's not
Yes,
directly in your family, or somebody that's
exactly.
a step removed, maybe
Yes,
provides that openness that people could share, right?
yes.
Is that sort of why 988 works?
Yes, absolutely, Dave. I know personally, if I was talking to my family member about, my thoughts of suicide, I'm using this as an example. I don't know how open and receptive they would do. They would probably just say, "What are you talking about?" Right? I mean, what do you want to do that for? Which would probably be a response that many family members might give, because they're not really sure how to deal with it. But having, professional people, talk to somebody about their thoughts of suicide, which 988 would do, you would get a different objective perspective. Yeah.
At CMHA, can you talk for a minute just about the programs you have based around suicide?
Yeah. So, we have assist trainers. Everybody in the agency is assist trained in suicide intervention. So if somebody calls in, or we have a client in a session that says, I'm having thoughts of suicide. Immediately we're able to respond because we have that intervention skills behind us. It's a qualification that we all need to have at CMHA. So we are equipped and trained to do a suicide intervention and address thoughts of suicide.
What about the folks too that maybe, like, if you had a partner that's has passed,
Mhm.
what about programs for them? Because that's so traumatic, and plus they're probably trying to reason with it. Is there programs that can address that?
Yes, and suicide bereavement grief is very complex and different than regular grief. And I hate to use the term regular grief, a loss is a loss, but suicide bereavement grief is definitely more complex. So we do run a survivors of suicide loss bereavement support group, and it runs monthly, the third Wednesday of every month from 7 to 9 p.m. You can either attend in person or you can Zoom in, whatever it's convenient for you. And as you mentioned, with suicide bereavement, there's the guilt, right, of people that are left behind. Like, what did I miss? Could I have helped? If I was paying attention, perhaps I would have seen this person was in trouble. But if you don't have the training or you're just not suicide alert, you do miss it because, like, why would you think in that direction? You don't think that a family member is thinking about suicide. It's just not on your radar, right? Yeah.
And signs and symptoms too. I mean, you don't, like you said, you don't think it's coming. And is there any common signs that people should be aware of that you can share?
Yes. Yes, there are some common signs, but there are signs that we probably miss or dismiss because we just think this person's having a bad day, right? So withdrawal is a big thing, right? You don't necessarily see that sadness or that despondency. Is that a word, despondency?
I think it is.
Yeah, that you would think, oh, this person, obviously, this person is having thoughts of suicide because they're so down and despondent and this and that. But it may not take that form at all, right? So you'll see things like change in mood and behavior, right? Recklessness, right? They're taking risks that they wouldn't take before. They're not taking care of themselves, their hygiene, maybe wearing the same clothes or not showering, withdrawing from activities that they used to really like. Maybe they used to play hockey or have a hobby or whatever, and they're not doing that. There are so many different signs and symptoms, and we call those signs and symptoms invitations to help because no one really wants to die by suicide, right? They just don't see another way out and they want an escape from the pain and despair that they're silently going through. So those signs and symptoms that we're, need to look for are really like their invitations. Like, look at me. I'm wearing the same clothes for the same week. I'm, not showering. Right. So you just ask about things like that, like, Joe, I noticed that, you're wearing the same clothes for a week, what's up with that? Or is there something, like that you want to talk about? Whenever you see a change in behavior, minor or not so minor, ask about it and address what you're seeing, right? Not just, are you okay? Like I'm seeing this, Joe. Can we talk about what's going on? And again, no matter what they tell you, we need to accept without judgment. And sometimes family members become alarmed and panicked that when they say, well, yeah, I'm thinking about suicide. And that's sort of you're in to have that conversation and possibly de-escalate instead of panicking. And what happens is that you're giving that message to the person that you're not feeling comfortable having this conversation. So what's going to happen? They're going to shut down. They're not going to talk to you again. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, you always, if you have a bad day, I always try and focus on what tomorrow may bring.
exactly.
Look for the
Exactly.
positive because
Yeah.
we all struggle with days that are just crazy in our
Yeah.
lives that we have to deal with things. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you're going to get up tomorrow and, it's a new challenge and a new day and you can conquer things. I think that's kind of my message because I think that's, we need to have, World Suicide Prevention Day just to remind us and to keep us focused on this, this dealing with this and how to help people. Right.
There is help out there.
Yeah.
And, suicide is certainly not the answer or the solution to what people may be struggling with. Right.
Great show today. I mean, it's a topic that you and I have shared numerous times, but I think it's so important to keep
Mhm.
reminding folks that
Yep.
there's things out there to help you. 988's great.
Mhm.
Obviously use that tool, but and CMHA has programs that can help all the way around. And I think that's the critical point that I want to share today. So, Lil, thanks for doing this.
You're welcome. My pleasure.